This video was made possible by the EA Creator Network. Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to my Sims 4 speedrunning video, or welcome to the channel if you're new here. So in today's video I'm going to be building in the world of Copperdale, which is the world that we got from the expansion pack The Sims 4 High School Years, and I'm going to be building a huge autumn family home. So this house ends up having 5 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, and it's built on, surprisingly, a 30 by 30 lot. Now I'm saying surprisingly because this house ends up being so much bigger than what I originally anticipated. Originally, coming into this build, I just kind of wanted to build like a nice small cutesy kind of autumnal cottage, or like autumnal suburban-y kind of house. But then once I actually finished the house and I looked at it, I was like, this is actually quite a big house. And yeah, like I said, it ends up having 5 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. Now this week, where it is now officially autumn, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, I've just been really inspired just to sit down and just build something really cozy and just homey and welcoming and wholesome. And so I thought I'd try and build a autumnal family home in the world of Copperdale. I chose Copperdale because, to me, in my experience, whenever I play in the world of Copperdale myself, like in gameplay, I notice that the trees in the autumn time just go this really beautiful red and orange and sometimes yellow colour, and there's so many different like mountains in the distance, and it's surrounded by this massive body of water. It is just the most perfect world to build like a little autumnal family home in. And so yeah, that is what I did, and so I hope you guys like it. But getting on and talking a little bit more about the build. So the actual house itself was inspired by a picture that I saw on Pinterest. I'll find the picture and I'll pop it up on the screen now so you can have a little look. I just really liked the almost simplicity of this house, and I just felt like this house surrounded by pumpkins and all these different like red and orange trees would just look really pretty. And so yeah, the original main structure, like the front picture of the house, if you want to put it that way, was very much inspired by a house that I saw on Pinterest. The interior floor plan and like the back garden and all that was just something that I basically just thought looked good. But in the back garden, by the way, it ends up having a bonfire pit because where I wanted to build a autumnal family home, I was just trying to picture all the different things that you might want to do with your Sims in the autumn time. And me personally, I, 1, get my Sims to go camping. I love to get my Sims to go camping. But 2, I also love to get my Sims to have like a little bonfire and roast marshmallows and sit around the campfire together and have a little chit chat and stuff. And so in the back garden, I end up placing down, a little campfire thing. There is also multiple different planters, and then also a greenhouse. I built a greenhouse in this house, and I use some of the stuff that we got from the greenhouse haven kit because I've recently discovered there's some really nice windows and doors that come in this really nice brown colour. Now, I normally use the Greenhouse Haven kit in like my regular kind of builds, but I never really seem to go for this particular brown swatch, and I just felt like it just matched the autumn vibes that I was going for so perfectly. Something that I did want to mention, by the way, is although I'm building this autumnal family home, and I am building in the autumn season, as you'll soon notice when I start landscaping, I also realised that you might love this house and you might want to play in it and, download it, but it's not autumn 24/7 in our games. Autumn is a season that comes and goes, and I'm very much aware that if I was to build like a massive house and just fill it with loads of different Halloween decorations, both on the interior and then the exterior, the majority of the year it wouldn't make any sense, because when it comes to springtime and you've got the Easter bunny bopping about, like, it's just not going to make any sense if you've got a pumpkin in your front room. And so the way that I built this house is I kind of approached it with, on the exterior I filled it with loads of different pumpkins. I made it seem like this Sims family, they love the autumn season, they love Halloween, they love getting into this festive spirit. And so they've carved all these different pumpkins and placed them down outside their front door, on their steps, in their certain little places in the back garden. But then on the interior, I just tried to make it feel like a really warm, homey house, but then have a few different decorations here and there, which once the autumn season comes and it goes, if you want to, you can delete and it wouldn't be like the worst thing in the world. Now, what I mean by that is, for example, in the kitchen, which, by the way, the kitchen in this house, I'm just such a big fan of. Like, the way that I laid it out And just all the different like, details in the kitchen I'm absolutely obsessed with. Also, this house has a pantry, which I never do, but yeah, there is a pantry in this house. But in the kitchen itself, I kind of laid it out so you'd walk in through this archway and you've got a breakfast table where I imagine that Sims of a morning, they'd eat like their oatmeal, they'd eat their cereal, or if you fancy, their eggs and toast and fruit salad or whatever. And then if you go around to the left-hand side, the counters kind of wrap around in like an L shape, but then there's kind of like a little breakfast bar. On the breakfast bar, I placed down these pumpkins, which are ones that are from the Spooky Day stuff pack. I used that stuff pack in this build. I never use that stuff pack. But I placed down these pumpkins, and they look like they've been carved. And I went through the debug menu, and I found like pumpkin scrapers and pumpkin carving knives, and I placed it down onto the kitchen counters to make it seem like Sims have been in the kitchen and they've been carving their pumpkins for Halloween, you know, for the spooky season. And yeah, they're just placed down onto the kitchen counter. But then that's something which, once autumn and once Halloween has come and gone, you can just easily delete that, and then it's just like a standard kitchen counter unit, if you get what I mean. I mean, there is also a few other decorations rather than just like the kitchen being the only place in the whole entire interior of the house that has some sort of Halloweeny decorations. I placed down a trick-or-treat bowl by the front door, both on the exterior but then also on the interior as well, because I'm thinking when it's Halloween and you've got trick-or-treaters, no, you run out of sweets so quickly. Like, I don't know about anyone else, but you run out of sweets like almost instantly. And so normally you just have like a massive bag of sweets just as an extra backup by your front door for the trick-or-treaters. I placed down, yeah, a little trick-or-treating bowl on the interior, like little front side table. There's also like on the dining room table, I placed down these candlesticks which are from the Seasons expansion pack. And the candlesticks themselves have like these leaves decoration attached to them. I placed them down a bit in this house. There is also like small little subtle details. Like another thing that I can think of is we have this like blanket basket which we got from the Seasons expansion pack. I placed it down to the lounge room, which for the lounge room I just went for like brown, warm, cozy looking sofas. I say cozy looking, normally leather to me it looks like it'd be really like uncomfortable to sit on, but the ones that I've used, they are from, I think, the Growing Together expansion pack, and they've got some really nice blankets that just match the kind of season that I was building for. But in the lounge room, I placed down like this Cottage Living basket blanket thing, and the pillow's got a pumpkin on it, like small little tiny details like that. I basically decorated the interior of the house with because, yeah, like I said, I just didn't want to go absolutely to town and go ham with the full decorations because unfortunately this time of year only happens at certain points in our Sims games. But anyway, moving on from that and actually getting back and talking about the build and what I'm doing right now. So as you can see, I've built the whole main structure of the build. I've already come in and done the floor plan, the windows, pretty much everything. I'm already a good way through the landscaping, but something that I wanted to speak about was the ivy that I placed down onto the front of the house. Now, I got this idea from that picture that I was looking at on Pinterest. I'll re-pop up the picture on the screen so you can kind of remember what it looked like. But basically, in this picture, it seems like on the bottom left-hand side of the build, there seems to be some sort of like ivy growing up to the windows. I love that idea, and the thing is as well, in The Sims 4, we have some really nice ivy that you can place down onto the exterior of your houses, but you can change the colour of them, of certain ones. So there is ones that we got from the Vampires game pack, and then there is ones that we got from the Get Together expansion pack. They're ones that are just normal build and buy items, and then the more like detailed ivy that's kind of like orangey, that is from the Discover University live edit menu. But yeah, I placed down this ivy onto the build and it just made me so happy because it just looked so autumnal and it just looked so cozy and just wholesome. Also placed down these, I don't even know what they're called, but there's kind of like this fencing thing, which we got the introduction of these with the High School Years expansion pack. And I don't know if you remember, but with that expansion pack, we got this certain window and you can place it down and your Sims teenagers can climb out the window and basically sneak out. Love that. But I placed down them pieces that they normally would like to climb on. There is actually a ladder piece that you can attach to the exterior of your Sims houses and then they can physically climb down them. The ones that I've placed down are just kind of like the decorations to go around the ladder, just so it doesn't seem so out of place. But yeah, I placed them down. I was really nicely surprised to see that they slightly, ever so slightly, changed colour to a more like muted green colour, which just fitted in with this build so perfectly. And then yeah, I also popped down a few different like roots growing up onto the ivy as well. The roots themselves, because the ivy that I've used, the red one that looks like it's got some sort of root and it looks like it's a little bit more realistic. That one is from Vampires, but then the red ivy that I've used that is more like a clump together and it's a bit of a lighter red, that one is from the Get Together expansion pack. But with the Vampires game pack ivy, we also have some ivy of like literally dead roots. Like there is no leaves in it, it's just basically roots to place down behind ivy to make it look a little bit more realistic. And so in some areas I placed that down, but you can see that I'm going around now and placing down some pumpkins onto the exterior. So for the pumpkins I use a mixture of different ones from different packs. The more like big realistic looking pumpkins, they are from the Cottage Living expansion pack, but they're the ones that your Sims can grow. So your Sims can actually grow these in their garden, but I use a different variation of sizes because whenever you get your Sims to grow some oversized crops in them planters from that DLC, you can kind of get different, like, I was about to say heights, you can get like different sizes of the pumpkins. So sometimes you might be growing your pumpkins all year round, you know, it finally gets to that time where you want to enter the contest in Finchwick Village, and sometimes your pumpkin might be absolutely tiny, but then sometimes you might have oversized crops and you've managed to grow them really well. I basically just used a mixture of all the different pumpkins that we got from the Cottage Living DLC, and then I also mixed in some decorational ones that we got from the Seasons DLC, and then also a few ones from the Spooky Day stuff pack. The Spooky Day ones are the ones that have like different faces carved out in them. So off memory, and I can't remember every single one of them because there's like 10 or something, but I know there's a kitten. There is the classic looking pumpkin. There is also a pumpkin that looks like it's being sick, like literally, like what they have seemed to have done is it looks like a Sim has carved a pumpkin, and you know all like the mush in, I don't know what it's called, but you know the stuff that's inside the pumpkin, it looks like they've like carved a mouth in the pumpkin and then made it so it looks like it's being sick all over it. But there is loads of different pumpkin variations from this Spooky Day stuff pack, but yeah, they're the ones that have the faces. They're also the ones that I decided to place down onto the kitchen counters in that little kitchen island bit, because I was thinking that your Sims are literally carving pumpkins in the kitchen together as a family, and so yeah, I placed them ones down into the kitchen as well. But currently, as you can see, I've just finished up the exterior front portion of the build, and I've now moved on into the back garden. So in the garden, like I said, and like you can probably already notice, there ends up being a greenhouse, which is pretty much what I started off with. Now initially coming into this build, I didn't have a plan like, right, this house has got to have a greenhouse in the garden, I've got to make space for a greenhouse shed in the garden. It was basically, once I had finished up the front portion of the build and I moved over to the back garden and I was fencing it off and I kind of got the proportions of the back fence, I just basically noticed that there was this nice little pocket in the back corner that a greenhouse would just like perfectly slot into. And so yeah, I used all of the different greenhouse haven kit windows and then the doors and then also the wallpapering and then also the roof pattern. Pretty much the whole entire greenhouse itself, like the exterior portion, it's all just stuff from the greenhouse haven kit. And then actually saying that, the flooring that I placed down to the greenhouse as well, that red brick, also from the greenhouse haven kit. I also use like the side tables from that DLC and also like the clutter pieces. I just basically used all the different bits and bobs that we got from the greenhouse haven kit in that greenhouse somewhere. There is also some planters as well, by the way, which I feel like is a bit of a given, but your Sims can also grow some fruit and vegetables in the planters. I placed down the ones that we got from the Eco Lifestyle expansion pack, but they're the vertical ones, so it only takes up one tile in your game, but you can place down two different things to plant, so it's more space efficient basically. But yeah, that was in the greenhouse. You can see that I'm currently just going around and just finishing off some landscaping, just adding like little bits and bobs here and there. I'm also just doing some terrain painting. In a second I'm going to fence off a small little section up by the staircase leading up to the greenhouse itself, just because I didn't really know how to structure this garden, and I'm not going to lie to you, and you can probably tell, I was struggling a little bit when it came around to doing it, because the garden itself, I'm building a 30 by 30 lot, like I said, but it's 30 by 30, so it's completely square, and it's really hard to kind of get it proportionate so then it all looks correct. And I sometimes find that when you've got a really wide garden, it just looks really weird, and I struggled when it came around to this back garden. I mean, in the end, once it's finished and I've completed the back garden, I do really love the way that it just looks and the layout of it and just the overall look of the back garden. I am a massive fan of. And I also found that when I was decorating the interior of the house, I kept on zooming out because I placed down all these different trees kind of like by the back fence, and they're all these different like fall colours. It looks so good in the back garden with all the different autumnal landscaping items, but then also the layout of it. I am really happy with it, but yeah, it was just a bit of a process, but it is sometimes, it happens. But either way, in the back garden, when you would walk down kind of like the back door steps off that little porch, you're met with kind of like a little barbecue area. So in there, I placed down a picnic table. The one that I've used is from the Cats and Dogs expansion pack. It's got some sort of umbrella. And then there is also a barbecue. It doesn't look like a barbecue. It's the one that we got from the Horse Ranch expansion pack. It's in the, you can't see it right now, but it's in the corner. It doesn't look like a barbecue, but trust me, it's like a normal barbecue. And I just felt like I haven't really used it, and it kind of fitted in with this building. So yeah, I decided to plop that down. Also ended up placing down at the bonfire area into like this little initial courtyard. But I also currently have a flower arranging table. Disregard that, I'm going to move it in a second. Like I said, I just didn't know how to lay it out, and I didn't know how I wanted it to look and what kind of sections I wanted it to have. And so in the end, you can see over here I placed down all these different planters. I end up moving the flower arranging table into kind of like this little section because it kind of fits more with like gardening and, you know, like making things and making all, I say making making vegetables come to life and stuff. So I do end up using the flower arranging table, yeah, in this little courtyard bit. And then I also end up placing down a pumpkin carving station. Never use that. Saying that, why would I place that down to my normal build? But I use the pumpkin carving station in this back garden, and it ends up being kind of next to the little flower arranging table. I then also use this swing set, which is from, off memory, the Little Campers kit. It's so beautiful. It's the one that's got kind of like this ivy and all the fairy lights growing up here. There is a few different swatches of this swing set, which when you place it down, it's got some sort of blanket underneath it, which I'm not really a massive... I've never been on a swing set myself that has... I haven't been on a swing set myself in a while, but I've never been on a swing set that has blankets underneath it. And so I decided to opt for the swatch, which is, you know, there's nothing underneath the actual swing seats itself. But then in replacement of that, I placed down some mud terrain paint to kind of make it look realistic. And, you know, the kid of this household, or potential kids, because I decorated a kid's room and then also a teenager's bedroom, but they're also a bit of a kid to some people, depending on what age group you are. But maybe they have been on the swing set, and just over time, the terrain underneath it has got a little bit worn, and, you know, it's a bit muddy under there. But then, as well as that, you would have just seen me place down the little campfire bonfire item. The one that I've used is from the Little Campers kit. The one that I've used is in some sort of like metal tin. It's the only way that I can really describe it, but if you look closely on it, it looks like it's got some like pine trees and then potentially Bigfoot. And where I'm building in the world of Copperdale, there is so many different pine trees, and so it just fitted in so perfectly. So I placed that one down, and then I also placed down a series of different chairs that kind of like wrap around it. I think I filled in all the different slots, so you should be able to have the maximum amount of Sims sitting around the campfire. But the chairs are from the Little Canvas kit. But now moving over, you can see that I've started furnishing the greenhouse. So at the start of the clip, you might have noticed, I basically came into this little room and I built a series of different walls, and then they look like they disappeared. I did it on purpose. So basically, coming into this build, I really just wanted to fill it with all the different plants that you've got in the game, both plants that your Sims can grow themselves, but then also just plants from like the normal build and buy category. But I knew that in the process of doing that, I would probably at one point want to pop in a little hanging plant from the ceiling. And this is the thing, when you build greenhouses, there is no ceiling, like it's just glass. And so what I did is I basically at the start built a series of different walls and then replaced them with spandrels. When you're in half walls up, half walls down mode, you can't see them, but when you have all the walls up, you can then see the spandrels. And then also for like screenshots, you can see the spandrels, but it just looks like some sort of like support beam structure. That way I could also place down a ceiling light, because I find whenever I do greenhouses, which in all fairness, I don't build that many greenhouses in my Sims houses. Maybe that's something that I need to maybe start doing a little bit more of. But I find that whenever I do end up building a greenhouse, I just always struggle with the lighting, like, because the ceiling is just roof, like there is no actual ceiling to attach any wall lights to. And I feel like sometimes you don't want to have loads of different wall lights hanging off like the sides of the walls. And so yeah, that way I could hang a ceiling light, and then also I had space for any hanging plants, which I actually end up only placing down one. I was going to try and clutter a few different hanging plants on like one particular beam, but in the end I just decided to opt for one that we got from the Blooming Rooms kit. But you can see in this greenhouse there is a series of these different vertical planters, also some regular planters. I placed down one normal planter that your Sims can actually interact with, you know, they can grow all their different fruit and vegetables in. But then I duplicated it and then duplicated it again and made it look like there was a spare plant pot for like future plants. I've done this before, but basically what I did is I just placed down a normal planter, and then I got another one, sized it down ever so slightly, moved it up, and then using the tool mod, I just rotated it. And then to me, it looks realistic, because then it looks like maybe these are spare planters that maybe were having, I don't know, basil, or maybe they were growing peppers, or I don't know what they were growing, tomatoes, something like that. And then that season has like been and gone when them kind of vegetables are like in their prime, and so you just kind of have empty plant pots in your little greenhouse. And so, you know, I placed them down into the greenhouse, also placed down the side tables that we got from the Greenhouse Haven kit. I then merged in loads of different pumpkins, loads of different like soils and like little plant seed packets, and just loads of different gardening bits and bobs basically into the greenhouse itself. And then also the vertical planters. There is no flower arranging table in the greenhouse, only because there is already one in the back garden, and I kind of wanted to utilise space for the greenhouse. Your Sims has plenty of different room to grow all the different things in all the different seasons. You could probably, you could most definitely extend this greenhouse and make it so it's a little bit bigger if you have more fruit and vegetables that your Sims want to grow. But I feel like the size of the greenhouse that I went for, which I think is like 4 tiles by 4 tiles, it's just a really nice, cutesy, small little greenhouse, and yeah, it's just functional. Your Sims can plant some stuff in there. But either way, as you would have seen, I just went around the back garden, pretty much just went around and finished it off, placed down some different ivy onto some of the fence pieces to make that look a little bit more realistic. I placed down some more pumpkins, random bits of like autumnal stuff basically. But now, as you can see, I've now moved on into the interior of the house, and I started off by the hallway. So embarrassingly enough, the amount of time difference there was between the last clip you just saw me do and now the interior clip is a big significance. I don't know what was wrong with me. I took hours, and I mean hours, to do the wallpapering and the flooring of this house. And I know you're looking at it thinking, Jess, that's literally just a plain brown wallpaper with like a brown paneling on the bottom. How did this take you so long? It went through its process. At one point, I was going to have floral wallpaper. The one that I was going to use is from the Sims 4 base game in the hallway. And then I was going to have this really leery wallpaper in like the lounge room. And then I was going to go for like a more traditional one in the kitchen. And then I decided to switch it out. At one point, I was going to use the Cottage Living wallpapers. I just went through so many different wallpaper options. And in the end, I just went for like a basic brown colour. But this is definitely one of the times that I'm kind of grateful that I always cut out my wallpaper and flooring, because at this point I don't even end up recording it anymore, because I am such an indecisive person. Because to me, the wallpaper is like one of the main features of the room, and if it's off, then the way that you decorate on the inside is going to be off. And I had this weird thing where I wanted to use this one particular archway, which we got from the Sims 4 Growing Together expansion pack, and it's a really big archway, it's like 4 tiles wide, but it doesn't come in this really nice brown swatch that I wanted to use in the house. And so I went through the process of changing the swatches of that to match the wallpaper, deleting that, placing down like another door, and then placing down arch. It just went through its process, and it's really ironic because you wouldn't even think it, because I literally just end up using plain basic wallpaper, which is from base game, and then also this base game wooden floor. I then use this like base game tile in the kitchen as well. But you know, I just wanted to tell you that because I just thought it was really funny, because also as well, I spent hours, doing this whole entire thing. I then decided to call it a day at one point, because I'd looked at the wallpaper swatches for literally hours at this point, and I feel like I tried to go through every single wallpaper in the game trying to find the nice right wallpaper for this house. And then just as I was about to come in and start recording, I thought, tell you what, I'm going to change it again. And then I just changed it to the brown wallpaper, and then we just went from there. It was just an absolute process for this house. But either way, in the front entrance hallway, as you would have seen, I placed down some sort of shelving unit, which we got from the Cats and Dogs expansion pack. I then merged in this everyday clutter kit wall decoration, which it looks like it's got, you know, like letters, someone's like maybe bills or something, and then also some keys attached to it. Normally you can place it down into the wall, but I've realised in this build that you can actually place it down into that shelving unit and make it look like one piece, because I knew that I wanted to have some sort of like coat rack, some sort of thing for your Sims to put all of like their fluffy scarves and their hats and stuff on. But the shelving units that we have in the game for coat racks, the bigger ones anyway, I felt like wasn't working, so I decided to opt for that cats and dogs shelf, and then use a tiny little like coat rack decoration on the other side of the wall. Also placed down like a little umbrella stand, and then on the actual cats and dogs shelf itself, I placed down a little trick-or-treat bowl, which I was thinking when trick-or-treaters come around, you know, they're at the door, they're asking for sweets and candy and stuff. It is basically just like extra stuff Which, I mean, normally you would just place down the actual packet of sweets, because obviously when you go to the shop and you buy sweets for trick-or-treaters, you normally just buy the sweets and then put it into a bowl yourself. But we don't have any like sweet packets that I could have placed down, so I just placed down like another bowl for, yeah, basically just like backup for if the trick-or-treat bowl on the exterior of the build runs out. It's just kind of like, this family is sorted, you know, they are going to be catering to all of the kids in the neighbourhood of Copperdale. But anyway, moving on, as you can see, I have now moved over and I've started furnishing the kitchen. So in here I decided to go for pretty much my favourite base game count. I say my favourite base game counters, I think they might just be my favourite counters in the game. These ones from base game, they're like, it's more traditional, they just look really homey, these counters, and I feel like they're just so much more realistic. I feel like in The Sims 4 we've got so many different counters at this point, and I always just seem to revert back to these ones just because they're so good and they come in some really lovely swatches as well. But I decided to use these in some sort of like L shape around two of the walls, kind of like wrapping around the wall, and then I decided to build like a little cube and then have a breakfast bar coming off that cube, and then that way it just makes it feel just so inviting and homey. And then I clustered it up with loads of different plants and books and recipes and just loads of different kitcheny bits and bobs. Basically I use so many different decorations that we got from the latest kit. No, it's not a kit, it's a stuff pack. I'm so used to saying kit at this point because stuff packs, they went away for a little bit, but from the latest stuff pack, Home Chef Hustle, I use the little like chef book decoration, I use the little kitchen scales, I also end up placing down the new waffle making station over here in the little pantry, and then also some clutter decorations to go along with that. Also use the new fridge that we got from the latest stuff pack, which I spoke about this fridge in my last video, because if you didn't catch it, last week I built a French inspired house for a home chef, and I was speaking, like ranting and raving about this fridge that we just got from this latest stuff pack. It is so good because, I don't know if you've been counting this yourself, but when you do a kitchen in The Sims 4, like when you make a kitchen, have you ever noticed that when you place down cabinets or like counters and then you want to place down a fridge, there's always just like a slight little gap? It looks like about an inch or something. There's always like a tiny little gap, and so you always have to like budge over the fridge ever so slightly. But then sometimes as well, when you place down cabinets onto the wall, the fridges seem to clip into the cabinets. The new fridge that we just got, that doesn't happen. I know that I'm just going to be using this new fridge in all of my builds going forward, just because it's such a good fridge, and it comes in so many lovely swatches as well. I decided to use it in this kind of like greyy, it's kind of like a reddy greyy kind of colour. I can't even describe it, but you can see it on the screen over here. I decided to cluster it up with some post-it notes under the fridge as well, and then I also decided to place down a little microwave and then some cooking books next to it. In terms of the actual kitchen appliances itself, it came to a point when I was doing this build where I was thinking, alright, but what else can I add in which is realistic and also kind of autumnal? Because I placed down the microwave, I placed down a coffee station, I placed down a standalone mixer thing, which again is from the new stuff pack. Also ended up placing down the waffle making station in the pantry, and then also the tea making station. At one point I was thinking, do I just go ham and then, you know, place down the ice cream station and the popcorn making station onto some other cabinets? I decided not to do that, but of course, if you want to, you could definitely delete some of the decorations and place in some more kitchen appliances. But in terms of the amount that this house has already got, yeah, there's a good amount of appliances in this kitchen. Also placed down a dishwasher, but I placed it down into the pantry, which the pantry ended up becoming part pantry, but then also part utility room, laundry room kind of space. Originally, coming into this build, I was going to have a separate laundry room on the other side, and I was going to make it into like part laundry room, part bathroom. But then when it came around to doing the pantry, at this point in time, I realised that all the decorations that I would have wanted to use in the pantry, I'd already placed down into the actual kitchen itself. And then also, I just felt like I didn't really have that many kitchen appliances left over, and so I decided to opt for not a full fleshed out pantry. Like, we have a little bit of a pantry, we have the counters in the separate room, and we've got some kitchen appliances. I then placed down some shelves onto the wall and then clustered it up with what looks to be like cereal or like bird feed, and then also I sized up some like kids toy thing, you know, like when Sims will draw in the game on a little drawing table, sometimes they'll get like little cans of what seems to be macaroni and like chuck it onto their painting. I basically sized that up and pretended that it was actual macaroni and chucked that into the pantry. But then on the other side, yeah, I just ended up placing down a washing machine and a tumble dryer. currently over here you can see that I'm just doing it this little like breakfast nook space. So this is still in the kitchen. I just basically wanted there to be a separate dining room table space for like when your Sims have their lunch or when they make their breakfast in the morning, somewhere to like sit down with a nice cup of tea, a nice cup of coffee, maybe eat their porridge, or I don't know what your Sims have for breakfast, but just somewhere to sit and just feel cozy of a morning time. In their little breakfast space itself, I use a table which is from the Cats and Dogs expansion pack, and then I use the matching chairs to go along with it. But you would have seen along kind of like the back wall, I actually use a sofa. Now I do just want to say it's not functional. Your Sims aren't going to be able to sit on that and then eat their food. It was just more so for like the decorational purposes. I really wish one day we could get some sort of like seating unit where you could place down onto a table, so you could have like a sofa and then chairs and make that be usable, because that is very much a thing. People have that in their houses. I love that kind of style, but yeah, I decided to do that in the kitchen just because it made it feel so much more like wholesome and cozy. And I placed down loads of different pillows onto the bench, made it feel like they're pillows from all around the house, like they've been dotted about the house, and then over time they've just kind of made their way into the kitchen, onto the kitchen bench. But then on the actual breakfast table itself, I placed down like some sort of like fruit bowl thing, and then also some flowers just for like decoration. But then behind that I placed down some sort of like china cabinet thing. The one that I've used is from the Cottage Living expansion pack, but it wasn't big enough, and so I decided to use two and then merge them in together. And then where it was the same thing and it had the same decorations, I basically went for the decorations category and found loads of different decorations to switch up to make it look like it's not the same unit duplicated, if that makes any sense. But anyway, moving on, as you can see, I've now moved over to the next room, which is the lounge room. So in here, I decided to go for the sofa, which we got from the Growing Together expansion pack, this leather sofa, which initially I was a bit hesitant to use it, because when I think of sitting down by a fireplace watching a film with a blanket and, like, you know, something to drink, I don't picture myself sitting on a leather sofa. I more so imagine like a fabric sofa, something that's a little bit more comfortable. I feel like leather sofas as well get a little bit cold sometimes, but for this house I just felt like it was the best sofa to go to match this kind of like autumnal theme. And then there is also like blankets and pillows on the sofa, and so yeah, I decided to use this sofa from the Growing Together expansion pack. Annoyingly, it doesn't come with a matching armchair, but fortunately there is a matching armchair for the Horse Ranch expansion pack sofa, and it's kind of a similar looking leather, and so I decided to pair them two together. And then over here, you're probably wondering what I'm doing right now, because there was just a bunch of different water bottles in the air. It's for a purpose, it is for a reason. So basically, in this lounge room, I wanted there to be a fireplace. I wanted there to be, you know, somewhere where your Sims can light the fire of an evening, watch the telly and stuff like that. But then I also wanted there to be a series of different candles, like candlesticks, on the actual fireplace itself. We don't really have any candlesticks in the game. We have some from, I think it's the My Wedding Stories game pack, and then we have other ones here and there, but they've kind of got like decorations attached to them, which some of them I do really like. But for the idea that I had in my head and how I kind of envisioned this fireplace looking, I basically decided to make my own candlesticks. So what I did is I went for the debug menu for the Eco Lifestyle expansion pack, found the candles that your Sims can actively make in the game, pulled them out and put them to the side. I then went into the Build and Buy for the Vampires game pack, and I found these kind of little, they're like pillars, you can put statues on them, but if you size them down, it looks like it could be something that could hold a candle. So that is basically what I did. I sized them down really small, and then where they're kind of some sort of like unit where you can slot statues onto, they have these auto like clip-in slots. I wanted to freely place these candles onto it, and so basically what I did, and the reason for the amount of water bottles that you just saw, is I basically placed down these pink water bottles in the auto placement for the actual pillars themselves. So in that way, when I want to place down the candles, I can freely place them and I can just like freely clutter it up. I do this all the time, not even just for like candlesticks. I do this for like bedside tables. I do this for dining room table. I do this trick with the pink water bottle all the time. I think it must be my most used clutter decoration in the game, because I use it in every single build whenever I want to freely clutter up things, because every single surface in the game, so like side tables, bedside tables, chest of drawers, kitchen counters, all of them, they've all got slots for you to freely place clutter onto it. I say freely, hesitantly. You can place clutter onto it, but you can kind of place it freely. There is a series of different rotations and placements, but sometimes it's just not exactly where you want to place it, and so I often place down these little pink water bottles, and then that way I've kind of filled up all the slots. Oftentimes I'll remove one of the water bottles and then place down a piece of clutter that I want to place down onto the table itself. I do that just so I've got the clutter to the correct height. I then place down the water bottle back, and then that way I can freely clutter it up. I really hope that makes sense, but yeah, that is why you will keep on seeing me place down loads of different water bottles. It was just very apparent in the lounge room because them little like pillars that I use with the candlesticks, they've got so many slots. I counted, there's 15 slots for them. Like when you place down a piece of clutter onto that pillar from Vampires, there is 15 individual slots, and so in the end there must have been about 45 floating pink water bottles in the lounge room. But I just really like the look of it with the little custom made candlesticks. And then also in the lounge room I placed down some logs next to the fireplace, like extra wood to burn in the fireplace. I placed down a little like basket full of like cushions and blankets. One's got a pumpkin on one of the pillows, and then there is also a side door which kind of goes to the side of the house, and then there's an archway which then goes into kind of like the more formal dining room, which you would have just seen me do. It's kind of like a dining room that's also a hallway, because from that little dining room space you can go into the lounge room, you can go outside, and then you can also go into one of the bedrooms in the house, and then also this little room which is the home office. It kind of doubles up to be a bit of hallway space, which I personally find when I come round to decorating dining rooms, it is a little bit easier if you've got multiple different doorways, because sometimes dining rooms can be quite hard to decorate, I personally find anyway. But in there I placed down a smaller table with some chairs around it. You can definitely place down one of them really big 3-tile tables. There is definitely space for it, but I wanted to place down a little piano into that room, and so I decided to opt for a smaller table, and then I popped down the standing piano which we got from the, I was about to say the Vampires came back. No, we got an organ. We got some sort of musical instrument from that game pack, but the one that I use is from the Growing Together expansion pack. That is the one. And then, as you would have seen quickly, I just decorated a small little home office. So in there I placed down a base game desk and then placed down a computer onto it. I placed down 2 bookcases, but I wanted a bookcase to look a certain way, and I found that there wasn't really any bookcases for the size that I needed that were kind of gonna work. And so basically what I did is I got one bookcase which was too big, sized it down, and then leveled up another one on top of it to make it look like one whole bookcase. And then also in that room there ends up being a decorations box, so when it is a festive time of the year, your Sims can go into the home office and put up some decorations, and there'll be like all these different lights and spandrels and all these different things on the exterior depending on how you decide to decorate your Sims houses. But anyway, moving on, as you can see, I've now moved over to the next room, which is the first bedroom. So in here, I tried to make some sort of like custom bed frame by using, weirdly enough, a signpost. So if you were to look at the bed, the actual bed frame itself, the bed is from the Seasons expansion pack, and I really wanted to use this one because the actual duvet cover just looks so comfortable and plush, and it just looks like you're getting into that bed and it is going to be the best night's sleep that you're going to have in your entire life, because the bed itself just looks so comfortable. But the one thing about that bed is it doesn't have a back-in headboard, and so basically with just using a signpost that you're meant to use on like commercial lots, I merged it into the back of the bed, sized it down ever so slightly, and then it kind of looks like a bed frame. Luckily enough, the swatch that I used of a signpost happened to match the actual bedding perfectly, and so it does just look like it's one solid piece. But no, it's just like a bed itself and then a signpost just kind of like merged into the back of it. But that room, I tried to decorate to be some sort of like grandparents' bedroom, potentially like a guest bedroom. I wasn't really thinking of any particular sim when I was decorating it. I wanted to make it quite generic. With the Growing Together expansion pack, one of the features of that DLC is you can have your friends and family come and stay over. Like you can invite them to stay over for either a night, a few nights, a week. Sometimes they do not leave, but you can basically invite your Sims mates or like grandparents and stuff to come over and stay at your Sims house. It's useful if your Sims have just had a kid, and you know they've got their hands full, and so Nan and Granddad come round and they help out a little bit. But I was thinking, if you're someone that likes to play with that feature, then yeah, it could be like a guest bedroom, or you could just make it into like a bit of a generations family. You can have a generational family legacy live here, and you could have the grandparents live in that room. But either way, as you would have seen, I just quickly moved on to the upstairs and just did the bathroom. So like I said, there is 2 bathrooms in this house. There is one downstairs and then one upstairs, which is the one that you just see me do. The one downstairs is just off the little like bedroom, like the guest bedroom. Like I said, I was initially going to make what ended up being the home office into a laundry room, but then also a bathroom. But then I just felt like it was a bit too close to the guest bathroom downstairs, and so I decided to not do that and just make it into a little home office. But in the bathroom, I decided to use the counters, which are from the Cottage Living expansion pack, and then I also decided to use the tub that is from that pack as well. Also placed down like a toilet in there, a side table, clustered it up with some like bathroomy bits and bobs. I did place down a little basket that we got from the Jungle Adventure debug menu, and I placed it down next to the bathtub, and you would have seen I basically went in, found some sponges and like rubber duckies that kids and like toddlers and stuff will use when they have bath time, and I merged them into the basket to make it look like they're the bath toys when it does come like evening and you want to wash the kid in this household, which the kid, by the way, is a toddler. And you've probably always realised that because I have now moved over into the toddler's room. I don't know about anyone else, but I feel like ever since we've had the introductions of infants in The Sims 4, I don't ever seem to do toddler rooms anymore, and it makes me so sad because there are so many cutesy toddler room items that we have in this game, and especially this bed. Now, if you're curious, the bed that I've used is from the Werewolves game pack. Never used this bed, but it was just the most perfect toddler bed to use in this Autumnal Family Home, and so I had to use it. But yeah, I just feel like ever since we've had infants in the game, I'm also focused on like infant nurseries rather than like a toddler nursery. I don't know if anyone else is the same, but it's just something that I've noticed. And so for this build, I thought, no, I'm gonna build a toddler room because I haven't built one in so long. And so in here I placed down the bed, like I said, which is from the Werewolves game pack. I merged in some little tiny lights onto the actual bed itself. Now the lights, I believe, are from the little campers kit, I think anyway, and if that's wrong I will put a bit of text on the screen and correct myself. But I basically found these lights in the catalogue and thought they would look so cute, kind of like merged into the bed, and so yeah, that's basically what I did. I used one like the default placement of it and like merged into the end of the bed, but then the actual bed frame itself kind of goes up to a triangle, and so I got the light again, and then using the tool mod I rotated it ever so slightly and then merged in, so then the fairy lights kind of follow along with the bed frame. I just think it looks so cute. I honestly never really ever seem to use them fairy lights. I think it is because, if I'm being completely honest, I do kind of forget that we've got them in the game. I don't even know what category they fall under. They might be wall lights, but then it might be miscellaneous. I don't actually even know, but yeah, they're cute. They're from the little campers kit, and I merged them into the toddler bed. But as well as that, in that room, I placed down a changing station. The one that I've used is from the Growing Together expansion pack. I really hope that at one point in time we're going to get some more changing station like varieties of that unit, because we've only got 2 in the game. Well, actually 3, but one of them is one that you use in the community lot, and I don't really want to use a plastic looking changing station in my cutesy little nursery. But we've only really got 2 bedroom nursery changing stations, and I really struggled when it came around to doing this build because I feel like they're particular woods and they've got particular swatches on the cushion on the changing station, and it was kind of hard to decorate around it. At one point I was debating not even having a changing station in that room because I just didn't really like the swatches, but in the end I just went for like the more modern changing station. And then also in the little toddler nursery I placed down like a doll's house. I placed down a teddy bear onto the floor, which is a debug teddy bear, and it is from, I think, The Sims 4 Parenthood. You know, we've got that teddy bear interaction where kids can sit on the floor and pretend to play doctor. It's basically the teddy bear from that. I just found it in the debug menu and popped it onto the floor. But as you can see, currently I'm just going around and actually just finishing up the kids room in this house. So for the kids room, I decided to use the bed that we got from the Seasons expansion pack because The thing is as well, it comes in some lovely swatches, but there is this one particular swatch where it's kind of like this brown duvet background, and then there's all these different like colourful autumny looking flowers. They look like daisies, but they're autumn colours, alright? So I decided to go for that one. And then also in that room, I placed down like a little side table, placed down also a desk. I use a computer that we got from the Pastel Pop Kit. It looks like a tablet, believe me. It is a computer, like it's a proper, well, I was about to say well fleshed out computer, but it's a normal computer that we've got in The Sims 4. It just looks like a tablet, and so it's perfect for kids' rooms. I use that in there. I placed down a few different toys onto the floor. I placed down like some autumn looking decorations that looks like the kids have made like autumn crafts for this time of year. So I placed down some little like farmer tractory kind of hand-drawn cards onto the desk itself, and then I also placed down some like bannery ones by the end of the bed by the drawing table, because there is also a drawing table in that room, but currently I've just moved over into the next room, which is the teenager's bedroom. So in here I decided to use the bed that is from the high school years expansion pack, and then I found out that, you know, the book Nook Kit, we've got this little like side table. You can use it as a bedside table, but I found out that it's got a very similar, almost the exact same wood swatch to this bed from high school years, and so I decided to pair them two together. It looks like it's got some like books under the actual table itself. It looks like it's got some sort of like shelving unit underneath it, but then I also decided to use the computer desk, which is from the high school years expansion pack. But in this bedroom, I didn't really have like a clear mind of what kind of thing this teenager is into, like what kind of like hobbies and skills they enjoy doing, and so it's just kind of like a mix of everything. We've got a guitar in the corner, we've got some sort of like little gaming station, we've also got some like basketball related clutter. I placed down like a basketball like shelving unit. We got it from the Everyday Clutter Kit, but then near the end I'm going to place down a basketball jersey onto the wall like as a wall decoration. There is also like a little TV in here. I ended up placing down like a music station, a fishbowl, a ton of different books. Also placed down like a little video game console, and then I decided to place down a little armchair as well, because originally when I was decorating like the chest of drawers where I placed down the TV, I wasn't going to place down a video games console, because the amount of times I've placed down a video games console, gone to place test my build, and then reminded myself, Sims can't play video games if they're in bed, but they can play video games if they're sitting on an armchair. And so once I had the idea to place down the armchair, I then decided to add in, a little video games console, but then I just cluttered it up with loads of different like gaming clutter, some like odd headphones and different kind of like PlayStation or Xbox kind of controllers, and just randomly bits and bobs in the teenager's room. Like I said, didn't really have any sort of idea what kind of thing they're into. They're a teenager. They probably just like a little bit of everything, and so that is just kind of like the overall vibe that I went for in that room. But as you can see, I've now moved on into the next bedroom, which is the parents' bedroom. So in here I use this new, I say new, but it's new to me. It might not be new to you. It's new-ish to me because I haven't used it that much, but I use the new bed that we got from the modern Luxe Kit, which was the latest kit currently for The Sims 4, but I found that this bed comes in a really nice brown neutral tone, perfect for this house, and so I decided to use this in this bedroom. Also placed down two little bedside tables in here, a little chest of drawers unit. Also ended up placing down a little crocheting like decoration that we got from the Cottage Living expansion pack, because I realised I'd got so far into the build and I hadn't placed that down. To me, crocheting, knitting, cup of tea, that is a perfect autumn activity, and so I decided to place that down into the parents' room. But I'm just going to go around, finish the house off by doing this little hallway, and that is pretty much it. So anyway guys, I'm going to end this voiceover right here. As always, you can download this build via the gallery. My gallery ID is JessicapieYT, or you can search for the hashtag JessicapieYT or just the hashtag Jessicapie. As always, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and as always, if you do like my content then please do subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in my next Sims 4 speedrunning video. Bye guys!